Hi everyone, Christian Chi Trend here, and welcome to the channel for unlocking your universal energy potential. In this week's video, I want to talk about manifestations. So manifestations are essentially the concept that we have a thought, we can put that thought out into the universe, and then it will manifest. It originally came from, well, in terms of literature, it's been talked about in great detail by fantastic books such as The Secret, which if you haven't ever read, I really recommend that you do. But it's talked about in many different teachings, and actually from an energy perspective, science has obviously demonstrated that everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies. So, as I've said before on this channel, the only difference between me and the Christmas tree that you'll see over my shoulder, I'm obviously back in the UK now for Christmas, is that essentially it's vibrating at different frequencies. Everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies, and everything is one universal energy field. So I think it was so. This has been talked about by science for a while in terms of it being energy items being manifested in different forms, dependent on the frequency of which they're vibrating. But I think Nikola Tesla was actually the first guy to discover this, from what we know. In his memoirs, he wrote about that he had a device in his apartment building in New York, which he then used to tune into different frequencies, and eventually he tuned into the frequency for it was either the steel or the concrete within his building, his high-rise building, and the building started to shake and dust was falling. And as he turned it up, it got more extreme. In the end, the fire department came out, investigated on the basis of it being an earthquake, and he kept quiet about it, but it was in his memoirs. So he even discovered, and that was about 1890, 1895, the potential to, by tuning into the frequency of something, of matter that is congregated into one form, you can then effectively change its structure back into a wave format, because that is the difference between the manifest and the unmanifest, the wave and the actual structure. So you could tune into that building, and he could manipulate that building. You could tune into any frequency. In theory, you could tune into the frequency of our bones, and they could disintegrate into nothing. Scary thought. But the idea then is that everything is energy, and that we can put a vibe out. We are essentially broadcasting constantly. We can put vibes out into the universe, and things can be attracted back to us. So why doesn't it work all the time? I guess is probably what you're thinking, is that, well, I often think about having a huge house in wherever, in London, New York, and it hasn't happened for me, so that can't be true. Well, it's not quite as simple as that. The first thing I would say is it's around, you've got to be constantly putting that vibe out, constantly. And the second is that it has to have an emotion attached to it. So simply thinking, although the whole world is, in essence, consciousness, thinking will not necessarily attract that back to you. You need to have, as Joe Dispenza's talked about in his book, which I've actually got with me, really, if you want to get deep into manifestation work, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, by Joe Dispenza. What Joe Dispenza talks about is having that heart-mind coherence. And when your heart and your mind, because bear in mind there's more neurons in the brain and in the heart than actually is in the brain. This is something that gets generally overlooked. By linking the brain and the heart and having heart-mind coherence, and then from a meditative state, putting out vibrations into the universe, it can then manifest and be brought back to you. So that's the basic idea between manifestation, is that, of course, if everything is one energy, and we're giving off this energy, so we're giving off this constant magnetic energy into the magnetic field, then things can be attracted towards us. So another thing I think is worth noting on this is that it's about also, if we're putting out a constant I want, The universe doesn't really work like that. If it's I want, you don't get. However, if you start treating it, you need to align with the vibration of what it is that you do want. So you need to align with the vibration of how you would feel when you had that apartment in New York. How it would make you feel, to visualize it in your head, to go through it over and over again. How it would feel to touch the things, to move around, the sensations, the senses that we're taking in through the 5 senses. How you would feel, what scenario would you be there, who would you be there with, all these things, and link it with the emotion and how you're feeling. And you put that out, and then things can manifest. So if you come from a place of saying, I want, that's basically essentially saying that you don't have and that you're lacking. You need to align and treat it as if you already have it. I have abundance. I know that about myself. Even if I'm out of work, I don't worry about it. I know that I'll be back in work and the money will be rolling in soon enough, because I've shown that, demonstrated to myself many, many times over. So whilst we're on that point, worrying actually achieves nothing. By worrying about things, all we're doing is the reverse is true, or we're putting out this negative energy into the field, where we're then much more likely to attract those negative things. If you're constantly sat there worrying about, I don't know, my partner's going to cheat on me, whatever, if you constantly think about that, you're putting that energy out into the field, you're making it much more likely it's going to happen. Whereas on the other hand, if you're constantly thinking about how much you love your partner, for example, that will then raise the love in them, if you like, because they are us pushed out. So that's the idea of manifestations. As I say, it's talked about it in The Secret. It's also talked about it in great detail in Breaking the Habit of Being You by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe has spent lots of money, raised money and spent lots of money in all sorts of research in terms of the brain and neuroplasticity and how we're able to essentially rewire ourselves and link in with the magnetic field of the universe. So highly recommend, if you're interested in more of the science aspect of it, of looking into that or checking out his videos on YouTube. So I've talked about aligning yourself with the vibe of what it is that you want to achieve. So if you want love, you need to act like you are in love, that you love everything, and then love will come to you. If you put the vibe out that you're miserable constantly, oh, I have such a shit life, I'm miserable, then you will have a shit life and you will be miserable. You need to put that vibe out into the universe and then you will attract it back. So meditation. There are different types of manifestation meditations you can do. I will create one soon, which I will upload on YouTube that you can listen to in bed as one you can do before you go to sleep. But there are more in-depth ones. I'm thinking specifically about Joe Dispenza's work, which is a lot more detailed, but it also, in my view, makes things more likely to manifest because of the certain stages you go through. There's about 6 or 7 stages to Joe Dispenza's meditations, but they are more lengthy in time. So you could be looking at an hour plus in doing that sort of meditation. Rewiring your brain to make a whole new you, which of course then will make it much more easier and more likely that what you wish to manifest will manifest. He takes you through several stages. You can find some of the meditations on free on YouTube, or you can also get them off his website. But essentially, rather than launching straight into the manifestation part of the meditation, it takes you through these various stages. The first of which is getting that mind-heart coherence going and linking with our body. So there's 2 different ways you can do this. One is the water rising technique, where you can be sat upright in a chair and you imagine water coming into the room. First it's washing over your feet, and you can feel the sensation of the water on your feet, then your ankles, then your knees. And as the water rises, you're putting your concentration on thinking of those parts of the body, or putting your consciousness to that part of the body. So initially just your feet, but then eventually your feet and legs, your feet, legs and stomach, and working all the way up until your body's completely submerged. Another one is the body part meditation where you literally would just sort of go work your way through the body. It can be from top down or from bottom up. Again, thinking about different parts of the body without the water coming in. So that's the first stage, is getting that heart-mind coherence going, and then you then move on to the rewiring. And once you're in that fully meditative state, the rewiring of your brain, and focusing on an individual, one emotion at a time really that you'd like to work on. Maybe that's that you are fearful, maybe that's that you have anger issues. It's working on that emotion. You do that by first recognizing that about yourself, admitting to yourself what you have done and what you're like, and the gap between you, the real you, and the you that you present to your friends, family, colleagues, etc. Admitting and declaring that you have been that, which you declare out loud. And then you then surrender that into the conscious energy field. So you visualize either handing a box over or sort of walking through a door, and consciously linking your emotion to it and then surrendering that aspect of yourself. You also go through scenarios where you're observing in your head, where you're observing yourself doing that behavior, and redirecting your energy by playing the change game, where you imagine yourself in that scenario that you hate to be in, or whatever, and then you say change, and you go through that scenario several times in your head, which then when you come back out of the meditation should help next time that scenario crops up. It's only when you've been through all of that that you then move into the final stage of creating and rehearsing. And I have sort of rushed through that a bit. There is more detail to it than what I've just said. You go through the creating and rehearsing stage, where you imagine certain scenarios and how you would be in that scenario. You're essentially creating the potentiality of what it is that you'd like to manifest and putting that out into the energy field. So that's sort of Joe Dispenza's work in a nutshell. As I say, there's lots of different manifestation work you can be doing, but Joe is probably the most detailed one, and definitely one worth giving a go at some point. If you like my content, then please do subscribe to my videos and hit the little bell icon so you get notified when new videos are uploaded. Also, feel free to smash the like. Look forward to speaking to you again. Peace.